Thank you everybody for coming back and choosing to watch a video. I have been dying to put this one out. This is GZO. Once again, welcome to the studio. How's the fall season treating y'all so far? Good? Great. It's officially cold. In this video, I'm gonna discuss what it's like to fail during an art challenge and how to actually evaluate your own work objectively. With that said, let's take a look and criticize my work from Inktober 2023. First, I will discuss the thought process that went into creating the initial sketches. Then, I will explain how each idea was executed. Finally, I'll judge the final products based on the failures and successes of every piece. I'll also explain how to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of your own artwork. You've already seen day 1, let's move on to day 2. The prompt was spiders. As far as Halloween goes, it's pretty standard, the most iconic creepy crawly thing there is. I immediately thought of designing a spider queen. For her creative direction, I wanted a sleek, slender figure that embodied the lifeless, inhuman spirit of spiders. They're crawling on her body and play in her hair. Is she a part of the spiders, or are the spiders a part of her? I like something that invokes a sense of mystery and conjecture on the audience's part, questioning how the characters in the image came to be. Like, when you look at my drawings, what's the story behind a character? After all, I'm a comic book fan at heart. I pulled up some references to make sure I drew the proportions of the spiders correctly. I wanted to include a lot of them, climbing up and down her figure. I want people to feel uncomfortable when they look at this, because it should remind you of the fear and sensation of tiny little bugs, hundreds of legs, slithering up and down your skin. I think we can all relate to that scary feeling of something climbing up your leg. Ooh, spooky. Alright, let's talk about technique and criticism. Overall, I was really proud of my initial line work, especially the details of her long and tangled web-like hair. It literally took me hours to sketch and outline everything. Now, for Inktober, I loved emphasizing the subjects of my pieces by blacking out the spaces around them. I thought that the inky darkness around the figures would evoke a sense of dread. However, and unfortunately, I kinda messed up with this choice. I didn't think it through. I failed to consider how the black background would obscure all the details of my line work. In the end, the piece looked really muddy and sloppy. I couldn't even see the spiders that took me forever to draw. Literally the main subject of the prompt. So this was kind of a failure. I tried saving the piece by using some white ink to potentially reveal the spiders and hair strands that got blocked out, but this didn't work either. Thankfully, in times like these, we have modern technology to rely on. I took a photo of the original sketch and transferred it to my iPad. I saved my line work, and with the help of a few watercolor brushes, I successfully produced the washed out look I was going for in the first place. For Inktober, I love incorporating a Halloween color scheme in every single piece. So for the sleek and ghostly Spider Queen, I ultimately used purple highlights. Moving on to day 3. This proved to be a difficult prompt for a lot of people in the past month, mostly due to the fact that a path or road itself isn't a particularly engaging subject to draw. I mean, a path normally leads to something else, like a castle or a dangerous situation, and it isn't the topic of interest. So this demonstrates how you can use an Inktober prompt as an accessory instead of your main subject. This time, I wanted to be very intentional with the purpose of my sketch. I had to be intentional about where to place solid black and where I should keep it light to ensure that the images and line work were legible. Additionally, aside from completing the prompt, I wanted to practice my technique and skill with ink pens. Mainly clean, smooth lines and cross-hatching for shading to give the illusion of depth. Let's talk inspiration. The most common path we see are scary, mysterious roads in the forest that can lead to nowhere or worse. In the spirit of Halloween, I decided to design the following composition. The subject is a small child following a long, winding path leading through the dark woods. The trees tower over the figure, emphasizing her small frame by comparison. The branches twist and turn as if they were really following her behind. The darkness overwhelms the top half of the page as if the forest would consume her. The path leads into light, which fades away into nothing, a mystery. Where could this small, vulnerable child be going? All of these details and elements play a part in establishing the atmosphere of the piece. Now, let's take a look at what could be improved upon overall. Let's criticize. When I finished inking, I still wasn't satisfied. The depth wasn't there, and the lighting direction also wasn't clear enough. The tree branches and leaves were too obscured by the solid black at the top yet again. The cross-hatching was muddled, and shading was not as smooth as I wanted it to be. Like I mentioned before, you cannot hide sloppy line work in black and white drawings. Once again, I transferred the piece digitally to enhance the aspects necessary to finalize the piece. I added more shading to emphasize the light source, and finally, I finished with my favorite, a Halloween color scheme. Day 4, Dodge. Did anyone else think of dodgeball? Because that was the first thing I thought of. It was dodgeball. Since I couldn't come up with anything else, I decided to get creative and actually try something I enjoy drawing. What's the opposite of dodge? Getting struck. Inspired by my favorite horror movies, I drew a victim getting struck by a volley of weapons, pierced to death. He is the principal subject placed in center frame. His body is in motion from multiple strikes hitting him all at once. Day 5 was very similar to day 3, in that the prompt acted more as an accessory to the subject of the piece. I was anxious to meet the Inktober deadline and decided to finish this piece also entirely in Procreate. In case you're wondering if this is cheating or legit, let me tell you something and remind you about the main aspect of this art challenge. Remember, you can choose to focus on any technical aspect you want, either your skills with ink pens or focusing solely on composing black and white pieces. Personally, I love a well-rounded challenge, so if you prefer working digitally and still want to draw within the confines of the original art challenge, just establish some personal limitations and guidelines for yourself. In other words, customize your own Inktober challenge. Day 8. Skipping ahead. I'm gonna admit, I did not want to draw a toad or a frog, and I felt totally inspired to actually draw a witch more than anything else. So that's exactly what I did. I went with my gut. I wanted to emphasize her rosy cheeks and the texture of her face, marked with some small bumps and pimples, things that resemble the warts on a toad. I had in mind that a toad could be more like her familiar or spirit animal. She has a shy yet tender smile, and with a book in hand, this young magical scholar is ready to study toads and nature as her magical familiar. Spicy. Vampires are probably the hottest and spiciest Halloween costume and creature I can think of. Iconic, not just because of their fangs or bloodthirsty, murderous tendencies, but also because of their extremely provocative appearances. I was very happy with the initial sketch for this vampire character. I tried to showcase as much personality through her outfit as possible, including her color scheme and an effective pose. In this piece, she is proudly showing off those deadly fangs while picking her teeth with her claws. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely pictured a goth Megan Thee Stallion while drawing this. So for Inktober, day 12, say hello to your sexy goth vampire girlfriend. Careful, she bites and will most definitely suck you dry. Let's see, what was my inspiration for this piece? Earlier in the season, before the cold weather settled in, I visited the cloisters in New York City. This is a castle estate maintained and showcased by the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I admired the architecture, stone walls, large staircases, as well as the vegetation and garden surrounding the castle grounds. The stone archways that lined the courtyard and hallways were beautifully designed. Every time you look through a window, it's like viewing a framed painting. So for Inktober, I sketched the same stone archway to frame the main subject of the prompt, the distant castle. Leaking through the frame, I drew leaves and overgrown vines to demonstrate how it's been abandoned. Maybe it's enchanted, maybe it's the remnants of an ancient kingdom, or is haunted by vengeful spirits. All of this to keep in line with the spooky, mysterious theme of the Halloween spirit. Honestly, I felt like this was one of my strongest black and white Inktober pieces. Daggers are small yet dangerously iconic weapons. Because of their size, they can be elaborately decorated. In this sketch, I wanted to draw a beautifully ornate dagger held by an equally beautiful model. Kind of like how a magazine utilizes an individual's physical beauty to complement the beauty of a product or accessory that, the magazine is trying to sell. In this case, the dagger is a decorative and deadly accessory. The weapon itself is designed with a gold hilt. The shapes and delicate swirls on the cold, shiny metal imitate the curves of the model's large, wavy hair. At least, that's what I was going for. Let me know if I hit my mark. I knew the quality of my line work would determine whether an audience would be able to clearly view the details I just pointed out about the piece. So this piece required attention to detail more than anything. I had to be careful when inking in the waves of hair. If the line work was messy, the details in strands of hair would be messy too. With patience, I outlined the main body of the model and the dagger, using thick lines to differentiate between the two objects. Finally, with closer inspection, I used a thin brush to achieve the small, repetitive strands on the wavy hair and decorative, ornate patterns on the dagger. Biblically accurate angels are really fun to draw. I don't know if you've ever looked up an image of one, but look it up. It's a pretty interesting concept to try and follow. I absolutely love the concepts that people derive from their insane biblical descriptions. Likewise, I wanted to sketch an arcane and ominous creature design. So far for Inktober, you can tell that I've already incorporated a recurring theme of humanoid bodies to inspire my Halloween creature designs, like the witch, the spider queen, the little girl. So I wanted to continue this theme with the angel. Unfortunately, I gotta admit, I was not content with the final result of the sketch. It did not meet the creepy, ominous, creative standard I was aiming for. And that's why I feel like the piece just doesn't feel complete, even after I colored it in. So for the sake of the daily Inktober prompt, I inked it in, added a color scheme, and put my Apple Pencil down to declare it a finished piece. I wasn't satisfied, but this is just a good example of meeting a deadline for the sake of the challenge. Day 17, Demons. Like their heavenly counterparts, demons are equally fun to draw. This creature design was heavily inspired by one of my favorite artists. So consider this a shameless rant from a die-hard Doja Cat fan. Her iconic new album highlights the shameless compulsion to literally paint the town red. In other words, the need to cause chaos. The urge to make your mark by any means necessary, to ensure that people won't forget you anytime soon. And that's something only a celebrity or demon can do. So I incorporated the classic characteristics of a demon. Kind of cliche, but still a classic design. Prominent horns for the crown of her head, a devious smile hinting at her devilish, dangerous schemes, and finally, painting her skin with an iconic devilish red. My love for Doja Cat also spilled into the prompt. This time, I was inspired by the contents of the music video for her song Demons. The way she blended into the darkness and crawled up the walls via demonic possession was an impressive creative direction in my opinion. It was reminiscent of old films like The Exorcist. I thought the music video was absolutely fabulous, spooky, and daring. A love letter to horror films like The Poltergeist or Exorcist with the flickering lights and static flashes. The demon in this piece is chained up. She, and the demon is a she, is unable to use deadly claws, but she can still threaten you by flashing her sharp fangs. Like a chained up animal, this demon is deprived of freedom to cause chaos. Day 22. Scratchy? Dangerous? I don't know, I wanted to switch it up. Moving away from the dark and spooky, dangerous atmospheres, I wanted to embrace the fun, cartoony side of Halloween. Getting to dress up and play pretend for a different kind of childish humor. I drew a cute little demon this time in her own Halloween costume. A failed costume, honestly. I added some nice kitten paws, a fashionable little collar with a bell, and this cat is ready to scratch some furniture. Honestly, if you really think about it, there's nothing scarier than a bad Halloween costume. So, this is a pretty funny piece. I enjoyed it. Finally, we made it to day 31. The final Inktober prompt for this year's Halloween day is fire. For this piece, I designed a creature imbued with the literal spirit of Halloween. An undead headless skeleton whose body is dressed in all black with a jack-o'-lantern for a head. Does this design remind you of anyone? Nah, I don't think so. The light blazing inside ignited thanks to ghostly hellfire. I think I succeeded in creating a piece that reflects the whimsical aspect of Halloween as well as the spiritual. At the end of the day, people love this dark time of year because they can enjoy the spiritual, paranormal magic of the holiday season. As I mentioned before, it's the best time of year to get inspired by the macabre, sit around a fire, share ghost stories, and just create fantastic pieces of art. And I'm so happy I finally finished an Inktober challenge regardless. Alrighty, that was my Inktober. It was tough, but that's the nature of the challenge. It's not often I get to follow these trends, and spooky season is and always will be the best motivation. I hope you do something fun and creative for yourself this year, especially since we're nearing the end of 2023. Oh my gosh, so quickly. I'm just really proud for getting this video out. That was my goal, despite all the technical difficulties, but finally made it. It's here. So, what do you think? Did I fail the challenge? Did I succeed? Which piece is your favorite and why? Comment below to let me know. Please don't forget to subscribe for more artwork, comics, and analysis. See you next Monday.